Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Entrepreneur Encounters. I'm Brent Halfwassen, Milwaukee's small business coach. I'm really excited to have you here today, and you're going to love the guests that we have on. Before we get into that, I want to talk about why are we even doing Entrepreneur Encounters. My experience has been that we cannot succeed without meeting other people. That's actually one of the reasons we have Pat on this show. I'm also going to say that when you listen to the stories of successful entrepreneurs, there was always that one encounter, that one meeting, that one person who becomes your sponsor, who gives you that big lead, who gives you that first big client. If you're not out there meeting other people, you won't be able to have those meetings. So that's why we have this. And that's why we have our special guest on today, Pat Miller. Pat Miller is Idea Coach. He's also the founder of the Idea Collective Small Business Incubator. We are super thrilled to have him on. I think when you listen to his story, you're going to learn so much. So without further ado, Pat, welcome to the show.
Great to see you, Brent. Thanks for having me on, man. I'm excited for the conversation.
Awesome. So just tell us about yourself and the business or businesses that you've got cooking right now.
Oh, man. Well, how far do you want me to go back? I'll tell you what we're doing right now. I can do that.
Why don't you cut from, give us a little bit of your run up from the time you decided you were going to step out of radio and build up from there.
Sure. So I thought I was going to be a radio guy my whole life. I went to school for it, traveled all around the Midwest as an on-air talent, building radio stations, coaching air talents, making deals and promotions agreements. And then I realized, I need to go do something else. And that was 4 years ago this month. And as I went out and started consulting small business owners, I leaned on my roots of bringing people together and creating shows and content for people. And that really took hold during the pandemic. March 18th, like the day after the NBA canceled and Tom Hanks got COVID, we all knew we were in for something. So I started a daily Zoom show just like this that we called Small Business Rally Point, and held this 1 hour show every day for about 60 or 80 days in a row. And at the end of that, someone said, "Hey, you've built a community here." Like, oh yeah, I guess we kind of have. So we started the Idea Collective Small Business Incubator June 1st, 2020, with a mission to bring small business owners together so we could all grow as a group.
Awesome. So why did you decide to leave radio and become an entrepreneur? What was that impetus and what was that like for you?
It was partially because of necessity. When you're in the business and, well, I was kind of unique in the business, not unique because I was so good, unique because I didn't really have a home. I like to build radio stations. I like to be an on-air talent, and I like the business side as well. And the majority of folks, by the time they get in their mid 40s, they pick a lane. Either they're a programmer and they build stations, or they're an on-air talent and they just want to do a show, or they're a sales or manager person and they like the business side. I like to dabble in all of them. So when it got to be 4 years ago at this time, it was clear that I had to pick a lane because the stations were up for sale. So the two paths that I had in front of me were go back on the air every day and do a radio show, or go be a general manager or a business guy someplace. And it probably would have necessitated a move away from Milwaukee. And my wife was a successful small business owner, so we didn't want to do that. And I didn't really want to go back to just being an air talent or just being a business person. And they're both noble professions. I'm not ripping on them either way, but I just wanted something else. And I figured at that point, if I didn't go do my own thing, I think I would have regretted it. And the risk was this: if I go out and do my own thing and it doesn't work, I'll just go get a job someplace and then we'll reassess. And that was really the leap that we had to choose from.
Walk me through that journey in a little more detail, because that's important that you validate where your risk is and your downside. Sometimes I feel like folks think, well, I'm just going to jump in and get it done, and I can't really evaluate it. So you knew you had something potentially to fall back on. But I remember in your journey, you mentioned your wife's a successful entrepreneur, but you watched some things along the way that really didn't sit well with you in terms of support available. So walk through that a little bit.
That's where the idea to do what I'm doing came from. So my wife is a photographer in Milwaukee, Stories Frame Photography, Abby Miller, blatant plug. She launched 10 years ago. So for 5 or 6 years, I was in radio watching her go through the struggles of building her small business. And, I was essentially coaching her on the side, not knowing that I was doing it. And I was finding that she was missing some support that she could have really used. There were plenty of places to go out and network, and there were plenty of places to go get coaching, but the coaching programs were really expensive. And the ones that she participated in really didn't align with her values and what she wanted out of her business, and they were really expensive, then the networking programs were prevalent. They're all over the place. But, if you meet a bunch of people, which is important, but that's not necessarily business development and revenue growth. It's just meeting more people. So I felt like there was this opportunity for, well, who is supporting a solopreneur as they're trying to scale? That was the seed idea that I was using when I decided to step away, because the opportunity that I saw from the radio industry as it applied to small business owners, because I started networking while I was still in radio, just to see what the audience had to say, what the potential target market was like. And what became apparent to me is that a lot of the small business owners I was talking to, and it's still occurring today, they offer too many products to too many people out of a scarcity mindset. I need to offer all of these things. I don't want to miss any potential opportunities. So I'm all things to all people. And when you're all things to all people, you're nothing to nobody. And that came from the radio training. In radio, we target a very specific audience with a very specific entertainment set. And that's how you cut through, get noticed, win a target audience, and build a business. So I figured applying that training that I had in the radio industry to small business owners, that became a market opportunity.
Talk to me a little bit about the scarcity mindset. I want you to explain that a little bit, and also talk about what's the alternative. What's wrong with having that scarcity mindset and that reaching out? You did mention if you're targeting everybody, you're reaching nobody, but dig into that a little bit more.
The scarcity mindset, I'm no mindset coach, by the way, but the scarcity mindset to me comes from the feeling that you got to make the month, that you need the revenue, that this has to work. There's a bunch of negative energy around it. And when I work with people, and what I want people to do is start the conversation not with who you're going to sell things to. Start the conversation with, what do you love to do? Because this is the part of my story that I want to project back to everybody, is we are all talented to go get a job someplace. We are all smart enough to do something that someone tells us to do. But life is too short to build somebody else's dream. And that is my call to action. So when I was in the radio industry trying to figure out what I was going to do, I'm on the planet to help people think bigger. I'm on the planet to help people realize they can do more than what they're doing now, to lift people up and help them build their ideas bigger. And I saw the application opportunity to go to small business owners and use that mindset and my radio training to help them narrow down their audience. So I like to help people start with, what do you love? What feels like play to you? And then identify the audience that needs that. Because when you're operating, some people call it a zone of genius. When you're operating from that thing that feels like play to you, that you love to do, you end up doing better work. You can charge more, you can be known for something, and you can identify a more narrow target audience and be known as the person for those people. So the scarcity mindset really comes from, I think, oftentimes people that aren't really clear and haven't really narrowed down on the one or two things that they love to provide. And that takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of guts to say, some people hire me to do this thing, but I don't love doing it. I love doing this. Okay, great. Run for office on that and be known as Milwaukee's small business coach, right? You could coach anybody, but you are passionate about small businesses and you're passionate about Milwaukee. So you've picked a very narrow lane and now you're running for office on it. And kudos to you. I think that's a really smart play.
Awesome. Thanks, Pat. So you talk about how you applied that mindset in your own journey, because you had a successful job. You'd made it for a while in radio. And so it's probably a pretty good position. Your wife's already an entrepreneur. And some people would say, well, that's risk enough. Only do one at a time. Now you're going both feet in, both of you, both sets of feet, I guess. And you've got to challenge your own, you got to put your own beliefs of the scarcity mindset and how to put that aside. You got to put that into practice. So share a little bit about how that was for you.
A lean couple of years for sure. And the mindset was, if we can get through the first few years, we're going to be okay. I was definitely privileged because I went through school. I had the chance to get my MBA while I was in radio. So I learned enough about running a business while I was in the radio industry. And I knew that I could go get another job if I failed. So I was in a safer position than I could have been otherwise. And I recognize that. And I'm very grateful for that. But the way Abby and I did it was, okay, let's cut our expenses. Let's realize I'm not going to make hardly any money for the first 24 months. And I didn't. And let's be smart about how we pay ourselves. One of the things that we do is that all of our money goes through the Profit First system from Mike Michalowicz, who I definitely believe in. If you're an entrepreneur and you've not read Profit First, you need to. But instead of taking whatever's in the bank account every month, we've established paychecks for ourselves. And that was a game changer. So we have an account called Owner's Comp, and we put our revenue into Owner's Comp. And let's say it's got $10, but we only give ourselves $5 a month. We leave the other $5 in there. So the next paycheck is ready. And as soon as we started pushing away those paycheck deadlines and ended up building our Owner's Comp account, all the pressure lowered on us, because it's really tempting when you're building something to take whatever you have. But if you have the discipline to start giving yourself a paycheck mentality, and then quarterly distributions, if you're killing it, that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. But combining that discipline of expenses and then understanding that we could pay ourselves like a business paid us, those two things combined got us onto a regimented schedule to run the household and lower that monthly stress.
Can I just say, I think a lot of entrepreneurs look at getting into business, and small business owners, they want to start because they want to get away from that paycheck mentality. But I love how you brought that back in, that there is a benefit to that, because it becomes scheduled, it becomes expected, it becomes a goal, something that we're going to focus on, that if we're going to be successful. And I can't tell you how many entrepreneurs and business owners I've worked with that when I'm like, when we get done calculating your hourly rate, you're going to be pretty sad that it's like $4 an hour. So we got to figure out how to address that. So I really appreciate you bringing that up.
That's my pleasure. Like they say, I quit my 9 to 5 so I could work 24/7. That's pretty much how the life goes.
Talk to us about how you've adapted along the way. 4 years is amazing. Congratulations, by the way. What type of adaptations have you had to do? Obviously, COVID was a big one, but talk about some of the other ones that are maybe quote unquote more mundane, but they just come your way anyway.
If you charted what I've done on a whiteboard, reflecting back on it, it's kind of like a funnel. And I have gotten clearer and clearer on what I wanted to provide. And I'm now closest to what I want to do than I've ever been. When I started just like the entrepreneurs that I went out to help. My very first gig, I was doing sales for a soccer match in Milwaukee. I didn't know anything about sales, but I needed the gig. I was doing consulting for a travel agency. I was doing consulting for other entrepreneurs. I was facilitating brainstorms, all of these things that I could do to get paid, but it wasn't what I loved to do. So I started with, just client work. Then I got into some brainstorming work. And then I got into bringing people together through a Facebook group. And that's where the light bulb started to come on. When I tied my reason for loving the radio industry with my current situation, that's when everything changed. Because what I loved about the radio industry is you knew who you were talking to, you were crafting your message for an audience, you were entertaining and informing them and trying to help them. And when you had that happen in the radio industry, and I applied that to the business world, by bringing people together and creating content for them, everything opened up. So I started doing Facebook groups and live events for those Facebook groups. And then when the pandemic hit, I started doing more broadcasting, and I was bringing people together in the online group. So that's kind of how I got to where I was. I started with all of these different small business services, and now it's down to managing and engaging with my online community and creating content. And that's it. And I love every single day.
Beautiful. I love how you said you started out broad. It's hard. It is so hard. We think we get narrow. And we're like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm only doing age 20 to 60 and like only males. Like, I've narrowed this dude down. It is so hard to get narrow. And the other part I think you highlighted, it's a journey. That funnel's not done. You haven't said you've made it. You might pivot, you might change, you might decide to grow and add another piece on. You might launch a new business, but knowing that you've never made it, you can always get better. But it's about progress and not perfection. So absolutely, I really appreciate that. How do you stay on top of your industry? You're obviously thinking a lot. You're staying focused on those small business owners. How are you staying plugged into information that's coming along?
I read a lot, as much as I can, at least. And I feel like that's the table stakes. So if you're going to coach and try and guide a community of people, you have to be up to speed on what's out there. And I will be the first to tell you, I'm not a business coach. you know way more about launching and growing a business than I do, but I bring people together. I make them feel good. I encourage them. I give them ideas. That's my secret sauce. And, I run a community. So I read about community building. I'm a member of communities about community building, if that's not meta enough. And as far as the broadcasting side, is I'm connecting with some of the leaders in my industry, still communicating with them about what they would do if they were in my situation. Because the next big opportunity for me is to relaunch my show, The Pat Miller Show, creatively titled enough, because I really have a vision for that being a daily show, bringing small business owners together, broadcast nationwide. And that's the big picture vision. So I have the books and the communities about running a community, talking with my members every single day and being present and really super serving them. And then making sure that I'm up to speed on best practices of broadcasting and podcasting so I can take this next big step and get back out there and serve people on a big scale with the broadcast.
Absolutely. So you focus on encouraging people to not grow it alone. I'll have you hit your tagline here in a second, but I want you to talk about the other resources besides, you mentioned you put in your own capital, you streamline your budget. What other resources have led to your success so far?
A lot of help. If we were going to do the credits of where I've gotten to, all the people that have helped me, it's an infinite number of people that have helped me. I've hired coaches. Don't ever skimp on hiring a coach. A coach who knows what they're doing, they can get right after your pain point, is worth their weight in gold. A coach will send you the proposal and they'll say, yeah, it's $5,000. And you go, $5,000? And you'll think of all the reasons not to say yes. Then you have the meeting, you have the transformational moment, and you look back and think, so I would have struggled for another 3 years, or I could have bit the bullet and done that and had instant transformation. I've hired mindset coaches. I've hired sales coaches. I've been a part of masterminds. So coaching is absolutely essential if you want to get better at what you're doing. So coaching, peer groups, a lot of support from the people that are around me. And, you just have to have the courage to follow your gut and follow your heart and realize, like I said before, you owe it to yourself to do what you love. And you owe it to yourself to look back on your legacy and say, did I treat people the way that I wanted to treat them? Did I give people my gifts? And am I proud of what I did? And that's kind of how I judge myself. Am I proud of what I'm doing? Because to the same idea that we talked about before, you're smart enough to go work for anybody. You're also smart enough to live out why you're on the planet. And that is the call to action. Are you courageous enough to give your gifts to someone and do what you're supposed to be doing? Because 10, 15, 20, 25 years from now, whenever you're done doing whatever you're doing, if you make a bunch of money, fine. But if you did what you were supposed to do, that's the real payoff.
Are you, how much outsourcing have you done? Because you don't do everything on your own because you can't do everything on your own. So talk to me about when you first embraced outsourcing. I think personally, that's one of the biggest challenges for a solopreneur because you're balancing time, money, sometimes not much of it, and the fact that you can't do it all alone, that you're not even good enough to do it all alone, and you shouldn't have to be good enough at doing everything. You need to maybe get 80% and the rest just trust someone else. So how did you go about your outsourcing journey? Because I think that's a huge part of how you've been able to scale so far.
Yeah. Outsourcing is the small business cheat code of the moment. If you're trying to run your own thing and you don't have a team, you don't have a VA, you're just working too hard. Because there are people out there that will do what you're terrible at for less than what you charge. And they're better at it than you are. No matter what the thing is, you can get online and find someone that's better at whatever you're struggling with than you are at that task. And they cost less than you do. So there's a spread between every hour that you outsource and every extra hour you gain in not having to do the work. So 2 years ago, I brought in my online business manager, VA, whatever you call Susie Moon. She's the brains of the operation. But when Susie came on, everything changed because now I had a partner to handle my weak spot, which is fulfillment and details. If it gets to be Groundhog's Day, I go insane. Like filling in spreadsheets and clicking out emails and all of the doing of the things. That's not why I'm here. Susie loves to do that and is a detail factory. And as soon as she came on, everything took off. I felt more confident. I wasn't missing promises to clients. And since then, we've added another VA. We have an editor on the team. We have a graphic designer on the team. We have a website developer on the team. We've got a social media person on the team. None of them are full-time equivalents. All of them are contractors. So you need to start by just thinking about, how much am I worth every hour? And how much is the outsourced person? And there's probably a spread between what you charge and what they charge. And you absolutely have to go capture that, because I heard someone say, delegate to accelerate. Absolute truth. Absolute truth. If you're not doing it, you need to be doing it right now.
Love that. What has helped you persevere? It's a tough road. 4 years sometimes feels like 40. How do you continue to persevere in this role?
Having a team helps. Having an understanding partner helps, because Abby's on the small business journey too. So that's a gift that I have that not very many people have. Most people have a corporate spouse or a spouse that is in the small business space, and they don't understand why you always have to work. And they can't, especially a corporate spouse, really can't understand that we eat what we kill. And that's why we can't stop working. So that's really tough. So having an understanding spouse, because we're on the same journey. I mean, having the community around me has been great, because there are hundreds of people that now understand the journey that I'm on. Trying to be serious about self-care, most importantly, sleep. I have a very rigid sleep schedule, and I have to get my rest, and you have to get your rest, exercise, and just understanding when it's too heavy and too tired and you're just worn out, you got to take a break. There is no glory in working 7 days a week. There's no glory in working until 10 o'clock. And anyone that tells you hustle and grind wins, stop listening to them. Just stop listening to them, because that might work for them. But for most of the people that I watch, that's not the right answer.
Let's start to pivot a little bit. You mentioned the origins of the Idea Collective Small Business Incubator. Let's dive into that a little bit more, because that has become, almost that's become your manifestation of your purpose in terms of giving back, building people together. So just walk us through a little bit of that journey, what it has been, what you want it to be, and what it's becoming.
Sure. So going back to that small business rally point show that we launched on the day that Tom Hanks got COVID and the NBA canceled, that was like reactionary. There wasn't some big strategic plan of, I know what I'll do. It was this calling to say, listen. And if you remember back, if you were an entrepreneur at that time, everyone was freaking out with a capital F. Like, NBA canceled? Every business group closed. We have to stay in our house. We have to wear masks. I can't find toilet paper. Oh my God. I mean, think back to that time. It was scary. And there was no corporate check coming. If you were in a corporation, you could just sit at home and get your paycheck. There was not that for us. So it was a calling. So I went on the air on the Zoom show and just got people together. And the Zoom show agenda was very simple. We're going to get together. We're going to stay positive, and we're going to get through this. That was the full agenda of the show.
Can you say those three again? Because I think my opinion, they've become still the anchor point of what makes the group so powerful. Say those three again.
Sure. We're going to get together. We're going to stay positive, and we're going to get through this. And those were the three, reasons to be of the show. And it didn't get very big, but it got very powerful. And we had some really good conversations of people that all of a sudden, they had to close their stores. They couldn't get their materials. They literally couldn't function. There were new government programs. How do we apply? Are we eligible? Oh my gosh, the money came in. I can now pay my people. I mean, they were really high emotional stakes. And you're right. That calling to do that show is still a part of what we're doing with the incubator. So, okay, let's talk about the incubator. So when someone said, hey, you have a community here, I had to think, okay, how do I make a community? And everyone and their sister does a Facebook group. And I already had a Facebook group. but I didn't want to make my business reliant on Facebook's business. Because when you run a Facebook group, you don't own the Facebook group. And Mark Zuckerberg and whomever can either decide to charge you for it, take it away, decide you violated their protocols. You don't get their email addresses. You can't get in front of everybody with everything you want to say. You don't have the control that you think you do with a Facebook group. So I knew I wanted to be off Facebook. I found Mighty Networks. I set it up. And then I went back to this community that I was building on the Zoom show and said, listen, I need 50 people to launch this community. We need the founding 50. And I will never, ever forget the moment. It was May 31st, the night before we were starting the community. I was on a Zoom call showing people what I had built, saying, hey, team, tomorrow it starts. And we had 48 people signed up. During that call, we got the final 2 people to say yes. And we hit the founding 50 for the launch on June 1st, which was like the greatest moment ever. And since launching it, we've been pivoting, and expanding and growing, but it's all come from this point of we're getting together because we want to be successful. We want you to be successful. We want a positive place where people feel like they can belong while they build their business. That's the mission. That's it. And we continue to iterate and grow from there.
Oh, I think that's beautiful. Talk a little bit about what type of programming you have inside, because there's certainly a power to gathering, but at some point, having 100 people in the room starts to become tough. So how have you organized it in a way that's going to provide people the value that they like to see?
This comes back to my broadcasting roots. Instead of doing webinars or instead of doing seminars, what we do are shows. First of all, it's all virtual. We never get together in person because we have members all around the world, literally. So we keep it Zoom based on purpose so everyone feels like they're included. Then all of the Zoom events that we do are positioned and recorded as miniature TV shows. The theory is if we do these miniature TV shows and then we put them in the vault, every time we do a piece of content, our catalog gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So future members will still be able to see what we've done, and current members who have to run their business when these shows are happening can catch up on what they miss. So it's all virtual. All of our events are shows. We're now doing over 40 hours a month of custom content just for our members. And the shows are broken up into just meetings where you get to talk with people. We got brainstorming sessions. We've got networking events. We've got some meetings where you just get together and talk. In fact, one of my favorites is called Not Working. It's a weekly or a monthly evening event where we just get together and get to know each other. Then there are the workshops and growth sessions about money and marketing and small business operations, LinkedIn usage, technology. So we try and hit all the facets that an entrepreneur would want, but we're trying to do it in a way that it's easy to digest, even though there's all this content coming at you.
Awesome. Talk to me a little bit about your brand. What do you want people to feel when they encounter either you on the Pat Miller Show, the Idea Collective, and don't forget, we would definitely want to talk about the retreat that's coming up, because you've had a lot of success in round one, and it looks like some more success coming up here for round 2.
I want everyone to think of me as the person that they call to lift them up and remind them how awesome they are and how far they can go. I don't care if you're watching this and you have no idea who I am, but you want someone to brainstorm with, or you're frustrated right now and you could use someone to help you think through a problem. I want people to look at me as positive, encouraging, helping people go further, because there are plenty of places that try and take your money and plenty of places that try and tell you that they're smarter than you are. That's not what I want to be. I want to be the positive node in everybody's network that's there to remind them that when they follow their true calling, the thing that makes them tick, that's where all the money's at. And I want to encourage people to do that and remind them that life is too short to build other people's dreams. That's what I want people to think about me.
I love it. Talk a little bit about the retreat. You've got, it's coming up. Thank you. You've invited me to be a speaker at one portion of it, and I appreciate that opportunity. Why is the retreat so powerful? Because we just mentioned a lot of it was, in fact, most of the programming is virtual. There is an occasional in-person event, but the retreat, when you launched it last year, that was kind of like the first big, let's bring it all together and make it amazing.
Yeah. My wife, Abby, and I do an annual getaway. We do a retreat in December, and we've talked about that on our social media and such, and people asked us to do it. Last year was the first year that we did it and opened it up to everybody. Went to the Grand Geneva Resort in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, brought in Mel Robbins as a virtual keynote speaker and Jesse Cole of the Savannah Bananas as our in-person keynote. Had almost 107 people attend. And it was a huge success. It was like a family reunion because the Idea Collective had been together for about 18 months before the retreat. So by the time the first retreat happened and everyone got together in person, there were people running across the lobby that hadn't met each other before in person, hugging, crying. Like, it was amazing. And it went well enough. We're doing it again. So November 10th through the 12th, back at the Grand Geneva. Mike Michalowicz is our keynote speaker. Precious Williams, the killer pitchmaster, is going to teach us how to talk about our business. We've got Susan Trumpler, who's going to teach the Donald Miller Story Brand Workshop. Melina Palmer, Matt Brawning, Bron Watson is coming from Australia, who's going to do a session on social media, organic social media for your small business. And then above all that, we've got Brent and our track speakers and our other goal setting seminars. Like, it's just going to be a place to connect with other entrepreneurs, get clear on what you need to know, and get your goals set for 2023. And tickets are on sale now, smallbizretreat.com.
Love it. We've covered a lot of ground here today. If there's three takeaways, if people remember nothing else, they were multitasking as you know, no one ever does when you watch a live show on TV or on your computer. What are the three takeaways you say, if you remember nothing else from Pat Miller's time on life, remember these three?
The one thing I want to remind people, and I said it before, but you asked me to recap, is there is a reason why you're here. There's a calling. There's something that you love to do more than anything else. And that is the business. That's what you should be doing, and have the courage to not do all the other stuff. And that takes a ton of guts, and you may lop off 20 or 30% of your revenue. Trust me, you'll make it up and then some when you follow your passion and you communicate with people about why you're on the planet. That's the first one. The second one is live in a mindset of abundance and not of competition. Technically, Brent's a coach, I'm a coach, Brad's a coach, Susan's a coach. Doesn't matter. There is way more than enough to go around. And do you want to be reflected upon as the person that competed and challenged others and is basically just there to win? Or do you want to be reflected upon as the person that was always helpful, always given, always encouraging, and positive? That's what I want. So that would be the second thing that I would encourage you to do. And then the third thing, I wish that solopreneurs and small business owners could check out our community. And that's not because, I want more members. I want this thing to grow and become the small business support system in the US that I don't see that's out there. In my heart, there are local chambers of commerce that might allow you to network with other people. That's great. Really valuable. Nothing wrong with that. And then there are coaches out there that want to help you with issues. That's great. Nothing wrong with that. But there isn't a place where solopreneurs and small business owners can call home, built by and for other small business owners. Because when you surround yourself with other people that get it, everything gets easier and everything gets way more fun. And I'm so proud of the community, not because I built it, not because it's my big idea. I'm proud of it because of members like Brent and others that show up and give, and they also get it. So I wish that solopreneurs could come in and check it out because it's fantastic. I love it so much. And I just hope that it could be a resource for more people. So those are three things that I would encourage people to remember.
I love it. I want to touch on a little bit. Recently, you're always refining, but we refined the Idea Collective and added the Small Business Incubator onto it. Now, I know sometimes when people think of incubators, I'll just say a whole lot of thoughts come to mind. So when you're using the word Small Business Incubator, what do you mean, and what do you hope businesses get out of it?
Yeah, we chose the word incubator because I was mad, to be honest. I needed a word that would describe how we're different than all the other communities. And as we looked around, there are technology incubators around every major university and every government body on the planet. And they all say the same thing. Come here to build your next tech startup, and we can provide you with investors, and we'll teach you how to business, and all you just come bring your great big ideas and we'll help you grow. That's great if you're building software. But if you want to be a dry cleaner, nobody cares. And that sucks. I'm pissed that there aren't places where people that want to build their dream, just because it's not technology focused, they get ignored. And the reason why they get ignored is because rich people can't come in and make money off of a flower shop. They don't invest in coaching businesses. They don't invest in marketing agencies. They want to 10x their money. So they play the lottery and they put their money in technology startups, hoping that they get rich. That's why I use the word incubator, because our program is about helping small business owners grow. And the word growth and incubator and being invested in them being in a better state in transforming into being bigger than they are. So I'm kind of reclaiming that word a little bit, because it really, really bothers me that government programs and rich people only care about technology startups. It makes me bananas. So yeah, that's why we picked the word incubator, and that's why I'm so passionate about it.
Oh, I love it. And as I'm reflecting back to the first time, I think I started wandering on your social media posts a handful of years ago. And I think some of those themes were there. Some of your language was always there around that. And I remember distinctly being at a capital, one of these workshops for startup businesses, and they were talking about capital groups, and they talk about bootstrapping for about 7 seconds. And they're like, I hope you have enough money. And then people are like, well, and then there were banks, and then they move on to venture capital. And I raised my hand and I said, how much venture capital do you have for the hardware store that wants to come in and replace? There was a well-known hardware store that had just, people had retired and had just closed.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just crickets. I was like, well, what are your capital suggestions for people to find the money? That's a lot of inventory you got to have to stock a hardware store.
Mm-hmm.
Crickets. I mean, these were the region's best experts, but the focus was on VC. And so I can't reiterate that enough, that if you're running a Main Street business, a lifestyle business, a lot of the solopreneur routes, and you're not looking for VC money, you've got to find opportunities to plug in. The Idea Collective is an amazing opportunity like that to be able to get in.
Thank you.
Pat, how can people get a hold of you if they want to reach you? Feel free to hit them with a couple different ways, and plug the retreat again too.
Sure. Happy to do so. So the retreat is smallbizretreat.com, smallbizretreat.com. You can see the entire agenda. You can get your tickets. You can check out the hotel and get a feel for what we're building. That's a great way to get introduced to the community. Then we've got a brand spanking new website, ideacollectiveincubator.com, ideacollectiveincubator.com. And there you can find some of the shows that we have done, why you should join, and you can get on the wait list. We allow members into the community on the first of every month. And that's so the new members can get to know each other before they come into the main group. And so they can get up to speed on how they get the most out of their partnership. And we offer a 2-week free trial and a 30-day money-back guarantee. Hopefully by now, if you've watched this interview, you know I'm invested in your success. I'm not invested in taking your money. So if you try it and hate it, I'll give you your money back. Like, that's not what we're doing around here. So ideacollectiveincubator.com, would love to have you check it out and have you grow with us.
Oh, that's fantastic. And on the last piece, I mean, you got the smallbizretreat.com. This is one little item that just comes to me and drives me batty. There are still amazing websites out there. You have to think about it, be creative, but you can find some stuff that's really going to help set your business apart. So do look up Pat Miller, do find out more about the Idea Collective in general. I encourage you, if you're watching this show, you probably need to be also looking at the Idea Collective, because our audiences overlap massively. And do take a look at the retreat. If you're ready to make an investment in yourself, this is absolutely the time to do it. So we've been talking today with Pat Miller, the Idea Coach and the founder of the Idea Collective Small Business Incubator. You've heard his story. I'm going to recap a couple of things. Man, that positivity, that is how you battle the scarcity mindset that we touched on a little bit. If you come in with a positive approach, if you focus on being a giver, if you focus on figuring out what your purpose is on this earth, why you were created, why God put you here, you're going to be able to unleash those skills and be amazingly effective. So do reach out to Pat, reach out to the Idea Collective, come to the retreat. You're going to learn tons. I've also got an opportunity still Wednesdays, 4:30 p.m. Central, Entrepreneur Encounters. We still believe you got to have people coming together. This is more than a networking opportunity. We have people building each other up, sharing, troubleshooting challenges, figuring out ways that we can continue to build us up and move forward. We have not had in the over a year now that we've been running this show, we have not had a single meeting where someone didn't come out better, more encouraged, and with ideas to be able to move their business forward. So if you're interested in doing that, go look it up, bit.ly/entrepreneur encounters, bit.ly/entrepreneur encounters. Sign up, join us. It's an amazing opportunity to continue to run in and encounter more entrepreneurs. I can't do this alone. I have several amazing people who have chosen to believe in my vision and support me with their skill and trade. So Andrew Feller Photography has done all our pictures, both here and on our website. Buckethead Creative handles all of our graphic arts. Chris Crane and Charlie's Music Factory does all of our music, and Megan Bruzan Consulting helped us with our initial web presence and also with our podcasting. So I'm Brent Halfwasson. I'm the Milwaukee Small Business Coach. I want to help small business owners break through their obstacles to live the life they dreamed. If I can help you out, let's have an initial conversation, bit.ly/coach with Brent, bit.ly/coach with Brent, and let's get some time on the calendar and let's find out how you get to live the life you dream. So again, thank you for joining us on Entrepreneur Encounters, and invite Chris to take us out.